Now that you've listened to some examples, let's continue to talk about more specifics in Renaissance dance music. So by this early 16th century, so that would be the early 1500s, printed books of instrumental dance music was available, which is a big deal. So, previously just individual works were out there, and really the only big collection of works was the Gregorian chants. But now, if you wanted to perform music, you could buy a book of the Renaissance dance music. Now, typically with just the melody written out, and then they would expect you to improvise on the repetitions. But what was cool was the instruments were really just chosen by the location of the event and who was able to play. So it wasn't like you had to have these exact instruments. It was just, here's the melody line. It might be written out for different types of instruments, but you could kind of pick and choose. I remember in college, for me, I would play Christmas carols, and we had a book written by the Salvation Army of just Christmas carols, and it didn't really matter who was there. As long as you had a couple different instruments, you could pretty much make it work. And so this is the kind of the style of that. By the end of the Renaissance, this is really important, instrumental music was performed without dancing. It's like, why? Why is this important? Well, now when we listen to just Renaissance music, we're like, it's fine. But the listeners of this time period knew what the dancing was supposed to be like. And so as it was happening, you could imagine what the dance was like. I mean, think about it. Those of you who really like to listen to like club music or EDM or whatever, it kind of gets you moving, gets you in that vibe. It's a similar aspect. They would perform the dance music without the dancing, but people could kind of get inside and know what that was supposed to be like. They knew the dance moves. They could do the thing. So pretty important. I did actually get to take a Renaissance dance class in my master's, which was really interesting. It was a January mini semester where it was just like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, at the beginning of January before the actual semester started. So kind of a fun elective. So let's talk about the Renaissance instruments. So this is just slightly different than the medieval or Middle Ages instruments. You have the lute, which was still in the Middle Ages. It's a guitar. You have the viol, which is transitioned from the viele to the viol, which will eventually turn into the violin. Then we have the clavichord, still, the recorder still. We did actually just see, the last recording you heard was a cornetto, which was kind of a brass instrument. It's kind of a recorder with a brass instrument mouthpiece, which is really interesting. And very popular during that time, considered to be very similar to the human voice, even more similar than the oboe, which I've already mentioned, is now the modern kind of instrument that most people associate with the voice. But the term you need to know here is the term consort, not concert, which is just going to a concert, right? Now, consort is an ensemble of instruments of the same family. So you might have a consort of guitars, where it would be several guitar players playing together. Or you might have, in this case, we're going to watch an example of a viol consort. And there are different size viols, and they could play together. So big viols, small viols, medium-sized viols. We do brass instrument consorts all the time, where we have trumpets with trombones and French horns and tubas, all the different sizes. But we normally use different words like an ensemble or a quintet, quartet, that kind of thing, instead of consort. But during the Renaissance time period, that's what it was called. So, I think we're going to watch this example of a viol consort. Before we talk about Palestrina. Let's do that.